Natural remedies for constipation. In a previous video, we actually went into understanding a little bit about what constipation is. It's the opposite of diarrhea. And it's basically just the exit strategy, and it's when it's bound up and it's not working correctly. Today, we're going to be talking about natural remedies for constipation. Does anyone have any thoughts as it relates to natural remedies for constipation?
Sure. So it could be as simple as not eating between meals, getting enough water. Then there's things like prunes, drinking your prune juice. Prunes have other benefits too. But having a consistent schedule of when you eat is huge, along with drinking your water. Those two things are huge, just to have it regular and loose the way it should be.
Okay, so you mentioned, the timing of when you eat. Is what you eat also important?
Oh, yes, definitely. Miss Irene had mentioned prunes, but any fruit that has kind of like a skin would be good. Apples, grapes are great. And if you need to get rid of some of your stool, exercise. So exercise is also good because it kind of stimulates the bowels to start working. And then sometimes we think about natural remedies as only things that we take in, but it's also stuff that we can do. So one thing that I even do this for my kids sometimes when we've gone on a trip and they haven't had enough water, is sometimes as long as you have your knees higher than your hips, it's kind of hard to do, but if you have it like this, and you have your knees higher than your hips, it aligns your colon so that it evacuates much better. If you think about it, in third world countries, they don't have toilet seats where you sit down. People squat. And so if you can get into that squatting position, it will actually help you eliminate as much as you can. The more that you hold your stool in, the harder it's going to get and the more constipated you're going to get.
So as it relates to that, I've actually seen some people that actually have like a little stool in the bathroom.
Yes, and so I like to watch Shark Tank, but because I think it's so innovative and I see lots of different ideas. But there was one, I want to say quite a few years ago, that somebody came and they showed this research. But before, when they first came out, they had this chair called a squatty potty, and all the judges, they just started laughing and they thought it was a joke. But once they actually showed all the research and they saw that it was something that was real, that squatty potty has sold millions and millions of squatty potties. But you don't have to go out and buy a squatty potty necessarily. You just need a small little step stool, something that can kind of you can put your feet on that will then raise your knees higher than your hips.
So we talked about fruits and vegetables and whatnot, and as long as I can have my cheese along with that, I'm just fine, right?
Absolutely not. It actually constipates you. And on top of it, you're dealing with 5 known poisons that enters your body, and you deal with those 5 poisons and toxins before it eliminates.
Do you have any other thoughts on cheese?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, cheese, so your intestines are like pipes. And so they're very squishy pipes, but they're still pipes nonetheless. And so if you have something that is gummy and something that can turn into something gummy, like white flour products, cheese, animal products, they will eventually turn into that same gum inside your intestines, and it can cause small blockages. And it takes a longer time for it to go through. The longer time that you have food, especially toxin, containing foods, the longer time you have that in your colon, the more chances you have of getting cancer, because your body's not able to eliminate the toxins fast enough.
I was actually just thinking about that. You know, if you've got all this bound up garbage that's in there, you know, if your, let's say your toilet backs up, and how long is it till that becomes kind of an unpleasant thing to have in your house? It doesn't take long at all. That's why you want to get the plumber, you want to get that fixed right away. Well, if that's the way it is with the toilet, if you consider what's inside our body and how that elimination process is going, isn't it somewhat the same thing? And we don't want it in there either, even though we can't necessarily smell it there. It still isn't good for the body. Any thoughts?
That's very true. I was just thinking of, and I can't think of the name of it, but irrigation, where they irrigate, and you could probably remember the name thereof.
Irrigation. I mean, it is irrigation, and you know, sometimes manual disimpaction. But I was just going to say, you said that you can't necessarily smell it, but you actually can. It actually comes out of your breath.
True. All right. So is there any other thoughts here on natural remedies for constipation? Okay, so next up, we're going to be looking at natural remedies for flu. But as it relates to this topic, we have now provided you our information on natural remedies for constipation.